Hey, 412ers, I wanted to put this second video together to really try to get a little bit more granular on what would you do if you were going to focus in on worship or Bible or prayer. And so hopefully this will work out so that you can kind of see some of those things. I've got my device that I'm going to get connected here to be able to actually show you around a couple of those pieces. So again, we've got up, in, and out, and then we've got this up triangle. And then that up triangle in the upper portion, we've got worship. And then in the in dimension, we've got the Bible. And then in the out dimension, we've got prayer. And so let's focus in on like what we would do, like what I would encourage you to do if you were going to work on kind of that up worship dimension. This is pretty soon. My iPad, and you're going to see one of my let's see, not that one yet, this one right here. So this is Amazon Music I talked about that we have, access to. And so we utilize this. We've got a paid version, but I believe that just with regular Amazon, if you have an Amazon Prime account, you have access to this. There are loads of other apps as well, Spotify and all that. The key thing is playlists. And so I've got that tab highlighted at the very top. You can see even I've got one that's labeled as 412. As I was getting prepared for that first night and trying to figure out what music to listen to or to worship with, I just kept collecting a few this way, and then I was just sharing them here. But what I do down here, let me see if I can find an example right here. So Monday or morning worship. I started this years ago, and I just started collecting songs that I really liked, and that were worship, not necessarily Christian songs. So Christian music and like worship music, I think there's a difference. Both of them are technically Christian, but worship music are those that kind of like lift my heart toward God, like focus my attention. And so you can see a variety of them in here. Some of them that now are no longer available, but 16 songs. What I do, I put it, and I would just call and use Alexa actually, and then actually ask Alexa, turn this music on. And it's a nice, simple playlist to be able to play in the morning while I'm doing certain things, like as everybody's getting up and getting ready. So that's where it started, morning worship. Then what I would do is I would start kind of by season, like this summer 2018. I would start creating playlists around kind of songs seasonally that were like maybe speaking to me and I liked to listen to during that time frame. So then I would kind of do them around that way. And then eventually, this has been the last couple of years, what I've been doing is something like this one right here, Monday morning worship. And so now I'm choosing a smaller amount of songs that I like to be able to hear. And again, when I wake up in the morning and it's Monday, this is the playlist that I call for. It's got 6 songs on it. It's 45 minutes long. And I'm doing a couple of other things, but I've got this in the background. And the key thing that I think this really makes a difference is I notice as I put that stuff into my mind and heart, that's the stuff that starts to come out. And so I notice that I'm singing those songs, or there's maybe something in particular from that day that actually I kind of carry throughout the rest of it. And it's helpful. So you can see there's Tuesday morning worship. I've got a different playlist there. Wednesday morning worship. I even recently made one for walking. That's something that we're doing as a family. So we're walking up Rocky Hill. And so I've got a walking worship playlist that's got a variety of songs that way. Some of those playlists have some of the same songs on it. Some of them, I'm regularly listening to new music. And so I might add in a new song that I really, really like. But that is the key thing. So if you're going to focus on worship, I would encourage you, find some songs, find a space in your life where you can add them in. And whatever app you happen to use, create a playlist so it's easy to get to, and really quickly you can just add this element of worship and up into your life that way. Here's the other one that I want to show you. This is the actual TOM app. The Order of Mission is what TOM stands for. This is the actual landing page that you would come to. And then notice right here where it says daily readings. I'm going to click on Psalm 53 right now. What's nice is it pulls up today's reading was Psalm 53 this morning. This is what I used. I went through and I read devotional reading from this passage. Then you go into Job. So it goes a Psalm, an Old Testament passage. I'm currently working through Job right now. And then I read Job, and I went through 1 Corinthians 6 and am reading systematically through this. It takes you through the Bible in 2 years. So that's the basic part. Here's some other things, though, is that you've got, like, for example, missional prayer themes. So there's some other things that you can choose if you wanted to be able to incorporate kind of worship and prayer together. Notice there's a prayer actually written out that you could potentially pray. It says take a moment of silence, and then you can sing or listen to a worship song. So you can get kind of all of these weaving together. It's got a scripture portion to be able to read, calls for giving thanks. You kind of listen and reflect, see if God's putting anything in particular on your heart. And then here are a couple of scriptures that you can read. So this would be maybe in addition to that. Kimberly really, really loves utilizing these. This kind of just fits maybe like her worship style, and it works really well that way. Again, if you are going to focus in on the Bible segment, I would encourage you find an app like this. That the reason why I invite you to choose this one is because this is the one Kimberly and I and the girls utilize on a regular basis, and the girls will be kind of re-engaging with it again. And so it's something that already, the community that you're running with is operating. But again, there's plenty of other apps, just like there's plenty of other apps for music that you could utilize. Nonetheless, I would just encourage you find a way to systematically plan and intentionally plan a structured way to be able to increase that area. If it happens to be worship with music, if it happens to be the Bible with an app like this to read on a regular basis. The last one, I'll just kind of pull that down and jump over here in prayer. If you remember, we used the ACTS prayer model. There are a lot of prayer models to be able to operate from. The point isn't that you get stuck in a model, but that you kind of help provide yourself with some space to be able to focus. So like, let's say that I said, okay, let's just take a time to pray right now. You may have a couple of things that come to mind, but your mind may begin to wander, or you may like, I don't know what else to pray for. And so what happens with these models, it just gives you something to kind of like work through on a regular basis. And remember, Zach's point was really well taken, that God just wants to be with you. It's just a conversation. So it is as simple as that. But I also know that certain personalities need a little bit more structure, and that might not be helpful. So if this is helpful, go for it and jump with it. A of ACTS stands for adoration. And so this is the part where you kind of just set aside a time to, just like I said, adore God, appreciate him for who he is and what he's doing. And it's just focus on that. So let me even just practice that right now here. I'll kind of like mock what that would be like for you. So I'll pray. God, I worship you and I thank you for who you are. Your grace is amazing. And thank you, Lord, for the life that you've given to us. You, as creator, are awesome and powerful. We just worship you, Lord, and exalt your name. And so notice from there, I picked a couple of themes that were kind of coming to mind. God's grace, his, ability as creator. Again, it's just focusing in on all of these attributes. And what I try to do is let my heart kind of lead forward in that, because I don't want to approach God like a robot. God, you are great. God, you are so amazing. And I don't know that he's looking for that, because I don't know that he's like in need of like people paying attention to him. What happens is we're wired to worship. And when we worship, that's actually kind of the fuel that we operate on. And so this is really about being human, and a human made in the image of God. And so worship, adoration in particular, is really helpful that way. The C of ACTS is confession. This is where you're coming to God and you're using this time and space to kind of do an inventory of like, am I in good relationship with God? Is there anything that's kind of come in the way? And so maybe confession would be something like this. I'll kind of just walk through it. God, I come before you and I thank you for your forgiveness. But Lord, I just want to confess some things to you. Or there have been some areas in my life where I've been short with the people closest to me, and my tone has not been what it is needed to be. I just want to recognize that and call it what it is. And Lord, I want to receive your cleansing. So I ask for your forgiveness for that. God, I also just noticed that there are areas in my life where I get distracted and I'm not focused in on the things that you're doing during that time frame. God, I want my heart to be trained and intentional upon you. And so come, Lord, forgive me and cleanse me of those things. So again, it could be something like that. This is really where you're doing some business with God and you're keeping a short account. I would not encourage like letting known sin continue on. It tends to plague us and oftentimes shows up in a variety of ways, physical, like sickness and other things as well. Again, we need to keep short records with God. The T is thanksgiving. And so this is like where you're just thanking God. I love this because like you literally can thank God for every single thing. And sometimes I like to start with the most obvious and simple, or maybe the biggest things that there are, and just like see like how literally like what are just the stream of conscious things that I can think of to thank God for. Again, this is an aspect of, prayer is just worship, but without melody. Worship is just prayer with melody. And so there is something as you're worshiping, connecting with God this way, you're wired like this. And the more that you think positively, the more that you are thankful, really, there's just a fuel that you're kind of operating off of. The S is supplication. It's at the end, I think, appropriately, because instead of just like asking God for stuff, like he's kind of like a divine vending machine, or like a divine Amazon that you're like going to and asking for goods all the time. Adoration, worship, confession, and thanksgiving are ways to like make this be more relational than it is just like coming to him and asking for stuff. But God does care about everything that you need, and so you can come to him and you can talk to him about the silliest things that you care about. If there is any need in your life, whether it's huge or small, talk to God about it. Now, here's the crazy thing. He answers, and he answers every prayer, but he doesn't answer always yes. And so you may be asking for God for something because it's the thing that you can think of. This is what I want and even what I think I need. But his answer honestly may be no. And that's okay, because I think sometimes even in the returning and asking, let's say that I've asked God for the same thing for 3 prayer times in a row. Eventually, if I forget about it, it's kind of revealing on its own. It's not necessarily something that maybe I needed as much as what I thought. Sometimes his answer is yes. Sometimes his answer is no. But sometimes his answer is just grow. Like it's not time yet for you. You know what it would be like if you received something before it was the appropriate time. Maybe it actually could be harmful for you. And so if God is a good father, he will answer every prayer of supplication that you ask of him. It just may be one of those 3 options. And so learn to just rest in his ability to be able to provide for you what you absolutely need. So again, here's my challenge. We've got this up portion of the triangle. We're focusing in on worship, on the Bible, and on prayer. You've evaluated yourself in each of those areas. Choose one of those, like I've challenged you to, and add in for 4 times in this upcoming week one of those things and stretch and grow in this. All right, guys, have a great day.